Oh, hello, can we please talk about UFC 287? I am Burt Green. If you're new to this, basically, the Burt Locker, it's a show mostly about mixed martial arts. It's whatever I fancy, really. I'm mostly interested in mixed martial arts. I'm a long-time fan, been watching a very, very long time. I know a little bit about it. And, but this in particular is the Casuals Guide, and it's intended to be a fast, fun overview of the entire card from top to bottom. A little bit of information on every single fighter, designed to be a bit of fun, and just so that you have more information on some of the deeper prelim fights that you wouldn't normally otherwise have. So let's get started. We're going to start in the early prelims. Jacqueline Amorim taking on Sam Hughes. Now, 5'3" is playing 5'5". Got no idea on the reach because these two are not people that I'm that familiar with. Amorim, she's undefeated on the regional scene. She fought in LFA as well. 5 submissions out of 6 wins. She's from Brazil, so putting 2 and 2 together, she's probably pretty slick with her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm just going out on a limb there. Sam Hughes, not brilliant. 2 wins out of 6 in the UFC. Probably a perfect debut fight, honestly. For me, usually I would say that the level of competition has been better for the UFC fighter, but Hughes hasn't fought really anybody of note except from Tisha Torres, and she got destroyed. For that reason, I'm taking Amorim by submission. Then you've got Shaylan Nerdambek, something like that, against Steve Garcia. Far easier to pronounce that. 5'8", plays 6 foot, with a 6-inch reach for Garcia. Shaylan is 39 wins, 19 by knockout. Guy's got power, he can punch, got very good elbows. He did win his last fight by elbows, I believe. He looks like a monster as well, which is always, fairly important. Garcia, he's a striker. Decent knockout rate. 10 out of 13 wins by knockout. On paper, this one should be a banger, actually, so keep an eye out for the Chinese fella against Steve Garcia. On paper, this one should be fantastic. For me, Garcia, I noticed his record in the UFC is loss, win, loss, win. So, in theory, his next UFC fight should be a loss. So, Shaylan by knockout. Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Trey Ogden. 6'3", plays 5'11". No idea on the reach. Now, Bahamondes is somebody that I do remember. He fought Roosevelt. Roosevelt had a lot of hype behind him, and Bahamondes knocked him out with a spinning back kick. Wonderful stuff. Ogden is called the Ghost Samurai. I remember researching him recently because I remember the expression on his face in the picture. You can see it right there. He looks like he's seen a ghost. Samurai. Sorry, I think he's called the Ghost Samurai. Yeah, he is. Anyway, he's a submission guy. 11 of 16 wins by submission. He's real good. Bahamondes is probably better, though. I think that as long as this stays standing, this is Bahamondes' fight to lose. If it goes to the ground, Ogden's got a good chance, but I'm rolling the dice on the knockout for Bahamondes. Cynthia Cavillo taking on Lupi Godinez, female strawweight, 5'4", playing 5'2", with a 3-inch reach for Cavillo. Now, Cavillo has been around for a long time. She just seems to keep losing and being brought back. Now, let's be fair, women's strawweight is not the most stacked division. That's probably why she still has a job, because I'll be honest, she hasn't had a good win since like 2020, where she beat Jessica Ai. Since then, it's 4 losses, 2 of them by knockout. It's not looking great. Her opponent, Loopy, is right. She is a bit loopy. She fought 4 times in 2021. She's active. She only won 50% of those fights, but she is active. She usually gets a decision, almost always. Now, this one's really a fight for Cavillo to get back on track. Some people have said that Cavillo is one of the best females strawweights to never hold the title. I would argue against that. Looking at her record, it's not the best. I'm just calling it like I see it. For me, Cavillo should win this one, though. She should, in theory, be a level above Godinez, but this might be Godinez's time to get up into the rankings. Who knows? Gerald Meerchart taking on Joe Pyfer. This one is the middleweight division. 6'1", plays 6'2", with a 2.5-inch reach for Meerchart. Meerchart is really putting together what I like to call a Jeremy Horn record. Jeremy Horn was this old school fighter who had like 300 fights or something stupid. It wasn't that many, but it's a lot of fights. Meerchart's doing the same thing. He's got 50 fights, but a lot of his wins and even his losses are against people that are like, who the fuck is that guy? Do you know what I mean? Either way, he is solid. He's got solid striking, as Bruno Silva found out in their last fight. He caught him with a great left hook, and then that set up the submission. But the submission is usually what he's going for. If he gets your neck, you're done. Pyfer is a decent striker. His mates call him Body Bags with a Z. Fucking dickhead. He got the knockout in his UFC debut. It'll be interesting to see if he can succeed where Silva failed. I don't know if he can, though. I like Meerchat in this one. I think he's too solid in the striking to get caught, and his submissions are actually really good, so I'll pick the submission there. Then you've got the prelims. Those were the early prelims. Now it's time for the prelims. Kicking off with Chris Barnett versus Chase Sherman in the heavyweight division. Now, 5'9", plays 6'4" with a 3-inch reach for Sherman. Chris Barnett is from Spain, weirdly. I didn't know that. I thought he was a Florida guy. Anyway, he's this big, fat heavyweight who's really good in Taekwondo. He's got great kicks. He's way more agile than he looks, basically. He got a big spinning back kick win over Gian Villante. In a nutshell, short, fat guy, but he can move. Chase Sherman, perennial journeyman. He's bang average in every area. Probably slightly below average in every area. I do like him, but he doesn't really excel anywhere, which is going to be a problem because Barnett, against anybody who's bang average, Barnett shines. So with the greatest of respect to Sherman, I think that Barnett is going to shine in that one. Michelle Waterson-Gomez against Luana Pinheiro. 5'3", plays 5'2", with a half-inch reach for Pinheiro. This is in the flyweight, the strawweight division, female strawweights. Now, Michelle Waterson, she's what I like to refer to as a marketable fighter, in that she's very good looking, and that's mostly why she hasn't been kicked to the curb yet, because her record it's not impressive. She comes from the era of the Paige Van Zandt style of female fighters, where as long as you were really, really good looking and kind of could do some martial arts relatively well, you were pushed beyond measure. And that is what happened to the karate hottie. She is pretty hot, but karate is pretty good. But outside of that, all she does really is she falls behind on scorecards. She's happy to be there, happy to be putting on great fights, smiling, high-fiving, all the way to a decision loss. And it drives me up the wall. Honestly, it just makes me mad. Urgency, Michelle, come on. Pinheiro is a Brazilian judo player, right? She's got Brazilian jiu-jitsu, she's got judo. Just a general rule in life. If anybody has both judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it means they're hard as nails, so you need to be careful with them. No change here. Literally, that she's got great trips, hips, submissions, throws. She's going to do well here. Waterson, she was not great in her prime, and she's long past that. So maybe she has a few great performances left, but I doubt it. Pinheiro, submission. That's my bet. Michael Chisea versus Li Jiangliang. 6'1", plays 6 foot, 4.5-inch reach for Chisea. This is in the welterweight division. Now, Chisea has been around for a long time. He's had his ups and downs. He's got a good offensive wrestling, grinding style. His top game is very, very strong. Very good submissions. His striking isn't terrible. He's kind of got 1 foot in, 1 foot out at the minute, though. He's 1 foot on the analyst desk, 1 foot on the fight game. That's never a good combination. Li Jiangliang is a great all-rounder. He's above average in every area. He's like a welterweight Chase Sherman, except he's above average in every area. Every area he is above average. Got good power, good kicks, good submissions, good grappling. He is just very good. And that's why I like Li Jiangliang in this one, because I just feel like Chisea may be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Li Jiangliang is 2 foot in, and for that reason I'm going for the decision for Jiangliang. Chris Curtis taking on Kelvin Gastelum in the middleweight division, even though both of these guys could make welterweight if they really push themselves. 5'10", plays 5'9", with a 3.5-inch reach for Curtis. Now, Curtis is an excellent striker, really great boxing. He's the only guy who I've seen kind of using a Philly shell almost style. I'm sure that was Chris Curtis. I might be mistaken there. Obviously, roast me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think that was Chris Curtis kind of coming in with the Philly shell style, which is very unusual for MMA. But he's got very good boxing. Out of 5 wins in the UFC, 3 knockouts. He's actually got a lot of fights as well. He's got 39 fights total on his record. That's not bad experience. Kelvin Gastelum, he's got a bit of a salty record lately, but look at who he's fought. He's fought nothing but elite guys, with the exception of Heinisch, and he beat Heinisch, to be fair. So Gastelum, he's just a stocky powerhouse, great wrestling, but really good boxing as well. He added brilliant boxing to his already solid wrestling, which makes him a very dangerous fighter. And against Adesanya, he looked fantastic, who was, one of the best strikers out there. Against anybody bang average, Gastelum normally fires him into oblivion. I think that could happen here. Gastelum's been around for a while. He won the Ultimate Fighter 10 years ago now, so he's got a lot of fight miles, but so has Chris Curtis, to be fair. I think that Gastelum probably is the slightly better wrestler. I think Curtis is probably the slightly better striker. But for me, I've seen Gastelum just batter people who are just not quite in the upper echelons. So we'll see if Chris Curtis can call himself in the upper echelons. Then you've got the main card. Main card kicking off. Just don't forget, if you do enjoy his content, hit subscribe. Thank you. Paul Rosas Jr. taking on Christian Rodriguez in the bantamweight division. 5'9", plays 5'7", 4.5-inch reach for Rodriguez. Now, Raul is the next Super Sage in that his being young is his marketing point. Sage Northcutt was marketed because he was super young. Same thing's happening to Paul Raul Rosas. He's pretty good though. He's got good submissions. I'll give him that. Rodriguez is no slouch himself. He lost his UFC debut, but then he bounced back with a nice anaconda choke in his last fight. So we know he's got good submissions. He's got some good knockouts on his record as well. I think he's the slightly more well-rounded fighter here. I think that fact that he's got that loss takes some of the pressure off, because he's going to be a massive underdog against Rosas because people are buying into the Rosas hype. I'm going to go against the hype. I'm taking Rodriguez by knockout in that one. Kevin Holland taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio at welterweight. So 6'3", plays 6 foot with an 8-inch reach for Holland. That's ridiculous. Holland, he's an interesting cat. He talks a lot in his fights. He's bad-mouthing them. He's talking shit. He's having a conversation with them. He's got really good striking. He's got excellent submissions. He's got long, thin arms that allows him to get good chokes. He's even got power when he's like on his knees. He knocked out Jacare Souza from his knees. Really interesting, well-rounded fighter. Santiago Ponzinibbio is an Argentinian destroyer. He's a berserker. He goes in there, he pokes a few eyes, he throws a few hooks, and he gets those guys out of there. For me, I don't know how he overcomes the reach advantage that Holland has got. 8 inches is a lot to give up, but I think he does. Now, I don't know why I'm saying that, because I think Holland is probably better in every single area, but I've just got a feeling, and I'm going to place a terrible bet on Ponzinibbio. I would not recommend you doing that, but I like Ponzinibbio to get the knockout in this one, because he is a bit of a savage, but I do think Holland is better everywhere. So I know that makes no sense, guys, so sorry, not sorry. Rob Font taking on Adrian Yanez in the bantamweight division. 5'8", plays 5'7", 1.5-inch reach for Font. Rob Font is predominantly a striker. He's got good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, brown belt, I think, but he's very difficult to read. He's got cardio for days. He can go 10 rounds if he wants. And Yanez, he's very, very exciting fighter. Brilliant striking, great boxing. He's got like 4 KOs out of 5 fights in the UFC. Really fun to watch. He reminds me a little bit of a bantamweight Masvidal. I don't know why I say that. I think he's got a magnificent head of hair as well. Look at Yanez's head of hair. It's thick. It's brilliant. It's just nice. For the head of hair alone, I'm taking Yanez. Yanez is going to get that knockout, because someone with a head of hair that fantastic is just... He's not going there to lose, is he? He's on a roll as well, and momentum's a thing. Gilbert Burns taking on Jorge Masvidal. Welterweight division. We've got 5'10", playing 5'11", 3-inch reach for Masvidal. Burns is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu monster who added some striking, and his striking is okay, but really his bread and butter is his grappling. But he hasn't got that grinding wrestling style. We saw how good Burns is, though. He's so durable, and he is a fighter. He is game. We saw that against Hamzat when he was able to take Hamzat to a very close decision, which is, bodes well for him. Now, Masvidal, he's a thug. He's an old school fighter. He was bare knuckle boxing in the days of Kimbo Slice on YouTube. And really, his hands are his bread and butter. He's got very, very good boxing. And we saw that later on in his career. He's had an up and down career. Later on, he found his power. He knocked out Till, he knocked out Askren, he stopped Nate Diaz. All great wins. And then he lost 3 on the bounce, but only to 2 people. 2 people being Usman and Colby with heavy wrestling style. Burns doesn't quite have that same style. That's why I'm taking Masvidal here, because number one, he's in his backyard. It's in Miami. He's the king of Miami. And I actually think that matchup-wise, Gilbert Burns is going to be far more willing to stand with him. I think that would be a mistake, actually. I think standing, Masvidal's going to eat him alive. And look, I'm not saying Burns can't win. Obviously he can, but I just think stylistically, people are writing Masvidal off when they shouldn't be, because it's not going to be a crushing wrestling style that we're going to see. I think we're going to see a bit of a stand-up battle. I think Jorge Masvidal in Miami, game bred, the king of Miami, gets one more baptism on his record this week. Again, with no confidence whatsoever, because I do acknowledge that Gilbert Burns is fantastic in his own right. Great fight, that one. I'm really looking forward to it. Then you've got Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya for the middleweight title, main event of the evening. This is the 4th meeting between these two guys in total in their martial arts careers. Only the 2nd time in MMA, though. So you've got 6'4", playing 6'4", with a 1-inch reach for Adesanya. Now, the new champion, Poatan, Alex Pereira, his main thing is he's massive. He's gigantic for middleweight. He shouldn't be there. He should be at light heavyweight or even heavyweight. He walks around at like 235. Stipe Miocic fought his last fight at 235. It's mental that he even gets down to that weight. But when you look at him, he's just like, he's made out of like granite. He's like carved wood. It's ridiculous. When you saw Israel striking him in the first matchup they had, Israel, obviously, he did stun him. I think it was the end of the first or the second. He did stun him. But outside of that, every strike he threw, it looked like it hurt Izzy's hands and feet more than it hurt Pereira. It's just, he's got that kind of, he's like the Terminator. He looks like he's sent back in time just to haunt Israel Adesanya's martial arts career, and that's effectively what has happened here, because Israel Adesanya, he lost twice in kickboxing and once in, he just lost his middleweight title to the guy, so that's going to get into your head at some point. Adesanya, though, is one of the most skillful kickboxers to ever grace the octagon. He is that good. His timing, his combinations, he's so slick. The way he sets traps, he's very, very clever. His IQ for kickboxing is really very, very high. I would argue his IQ for kickboxing is probably even slightly higher than Pereira, even if Pereira is a guy that has his number, if that makes any sense at all. I acknowledge that Pereira has his number, but sometimes, but like when you look at what Adesanya is able to do, it really is phenomenal. You can't take it away from him. Now, I don't think we're going to see much difference in the first meeting in terms of Pereira. I think we see the same Pereira because he won that fight. I do think we see a more aggressive Adesanya. Whether that be good or bad, I think that we see more aggression from Izzy, because in the first meeting, like Adesanya, he won the first 4 rounds realistically, and that was because he was going out there to kill. He was hunting. In the 5th round, he fought that round not to lose, which allowed Pereira to get back in there, get in his face, land that left hook, and then close out the night. So, for me, we'll see a more aggressive Israel Adesanya, and it will either result in Adesanya getting the knockout, or it will lead to a mistake that Pereira will capitalise on and shut his lights out again and go 4-0 clean sweep. Because you've got to bear in mind that Adesanya has said this is his last chance to beat Pereira, and that's why this fight is so interesting. The story there is brilliant. It's had so much build up, and it's taken the length of 2 different kickboxers / martial artist careers to come to this point, and that's why this fight is so special. That's why I'm looking forward to it so much. My pick, I'm going to roll the dice on Adesanya because I would just like to see them go at it for a 5th time, honestly. But I'm going to take Adesanya by knockout. I think he'll be more aggressive. But Pereira's got power for days, man. There's no way you could say that, you know, he's got no chance. Obviously, he's got every chance. But super fun fight. Looking forward to it. If you've enjoyed this content, please do hit subscribe. I'll be recapping this whole event next week. Until then, keep those odds long and those bets terrible. Thank you for watching.